which was resulted in the low utilization that you guys recognized. But over the last year, we were able to hire 3 new case managers and 4 new therapists, one being a bilingual therapist, and that position was vacant for over 2 years. Since filling these positions, we've been able to rid of our adult BHOP and supported living wait lists, which then increased the referrals that we're able to provide for the psychiatry program. And then now having that full-time bilingual therapist, we are now receiving additional BHOP intakes and referrals for Spanish-speaking individuals who are unfunded and require that grant services for their treatment. And since last fiscal year, we've also partnered with 2 local primary care clinics to streamline referrals for those Spanish-speaking unfunded individuals for BHOP services. So currently, we serve 26 clients in our BHOP program and 10 clients in our supported living program who rely on the grant funding for treatment. 6 of these clients are in both programs, and as you guys have seen, we utilized our full supported living FFS funds last fiscal year and then twice this current fiscal year. When that happens, we have to remove these 10 clients from the grant, and the 6 clients that are also in the BHOP program are then not able to be reported on the BHOP FFS report due to our electronic record system not allowing us to split billing for programs for one client. So we, lose some reimbursement that way, and already lose some reimbursement providing them psychiatry and employment services that aren't covered by the grant. So I just wanted to point out that we have been seeking other grant funding, but we also received less funding from another grant source this current fiscal year, which we used as a buffer for the supported living program to cover what was remaining for the mental health board fiscal year. So we are being put in a position to have to determine if we can take on additional unfunded clients or if we have to limit the services that they are able to receive with us. We're hoping to not be able to do that because we've been able to see the positive impact that the grant funding has provided to allow them to start their treatment journey. So, thank you.
Thank you. Rob Buter?
Good evening, all. I do want to also, to Leo, respect for your leadership. This is not this is not an easy job. And, I understand where you as the leader, your leadership is awesome, and the entire board. I spent 30 years in the public-private sector. These decisions are not easy. I get it. I've been in those chairs in the private sector. It's not easy. So mad respect for each and every one of you with these decisions you all got to make. I do want to say, though, that I am never going to step away from prevention-based programming. Prevention is the key to success, long lens, long term. I'll go to my grave believing that. And hopefully when I get there, people will say, look, it did work. Wonderful. Good call. But the decisions that got to be made here under the current situation you all face is critical. And I again, respect that. What I ask of you is to consider the smaller agencies that are just getting by. This is the lifeline we have to do the services, to provide the service. I wish I could tell you the last 2 days of my life. This is a tsunami of both street outreach, mental health, and the youth prevention-based programming, and all these factors that we deal with. And I am not alone in this. I will not stand here and speak for Brenda and the Break, and for Lupe and YFC, the 2 main prevention-based programs in this county outside of us that are doing the boots on the ground work. Please consider. Our ask is what it is, and I'm not going to step away and say that I'm not here to ask for the full funding, because I am. We need it. Can we get by with something less? Sure, we'll figure it out. But the long-term success of what we're trying to do at Warp Core is we need this. We need this funding. And if it's not today, tomorrow, tomorrow's another day. I'm a cup half full kind of guy, and there's always a way. As long as we have the will and the integrity to do this work for these kids on prevention and for those who are struggling on the teetering on homelessness, low-income families we're dealing with, and the unhoused in this county. The numbers are just going up. And I would like to say that I do stand, with these other agencies to Bobby's, Gattone's comments on, you guys got to make some hard decisions. And, I don't know enough about the big numbers and the big things that others are asking for. But, I stand with Live for Lolly and New Directions and The Break and YFC and these smaller agencies that really, really need your support. Thank you, and again, mad respect for the decision-making process you got to go through, and I hope you're all okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Fry?
Now I know what that beat means. Hi, friends. First off, echoing what everybody else has said, I want to thank the board. This has been probably a pretty rough week, and all of you are volunteers sitting here last night, tonight. So I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. What I would like to ask the board to consider, the debacle is probably not going to impact Live for Lolly because our funding comes out of opioid settlement funds. So I'm here for my friends. What I would love to see is the opioid settlement funds going to providers that have proven to be good collaborators in the county, not only to other agencies, but to our participants. They are the ones that deserve the funding. They are the ones that our participants need, and that is who I'm hoping the funding goes to. That comes from someone who's been in the SUD field for 15 years, and gratefully in this county for 6. And I've worked with all of them. And I just hope that the opioid settlement funds go to prevention and housing and substance use treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. I need a motion to approve the minutes of September 24th, October 9th, and October 16th. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Second by Amy. All those in favor? Say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. They are approved. We'll go on. There's no presentation tonight, but my report. In my report, we have the board attendance, which all of you have in your packet. We will be going into executive session at the very end of the meeting today. And December's meeting, we always meet early at 5 o'clock so that we are able to go out and have a little Christmas cheer for a volunteer board. So please put that on your calendar. There's a lot of training opportunities in your packet, and I'm not going to go over them all, but there's a lot of good training to take a look at. And so we'll turn it over now to Leo for her director's report. Okay. There you go.
Thank you, Connie. So I just want to highlight a few things. I just want to point out the data validation system enhancement was completed. And this was an internal project using an external vendor to vet the monthly service data that our compliance team is doing. The team did a great job with weekly meetings, updating the master code list. They did beta testing for each iteration and, during this 3+ month process. The project will have great efficiencies in staff time and with the overall accuracy of the data. So again, I want to thank all those that were involved, from Vicki on our team and Brenda and Karen and Eric as well. I mean, all of you. I'm sure I'm missing people, but thank you for all those that were involved in that project. Also, I want to just note that the ED, myself, the staff, and board members participated in both the Suicide Prevention Walk and the NAMI Walk in this past month, and the resource fair that was part of the NAMI Walk. Again, the events were well attended, and both were very impactful. So those are great participation events. I also want to note that our NAMI of McHenry County was recently recognized by NAMI of Illinois and received the Exceptional Growth Award for 2024. So again, that's great accolades to our NAMI for that recognition. And then the other piece I just wanted to mention to the board is our association meeting in December. It is the afternoon of December 5th and the morning of December 6th in Schaumburg. And ACMI, our association, really does want to encourage board member attendance. If any of you can attend any parts of those, there is registration that you can do right on the director's report, or just contact Bridget and we can send you the information. But again, we encourage your attendance. You get to meet other board members and executive directors across the state of Illinois.
I went last year and it was very good, and I'll go again this year on Thursday. It was good to meet other people.
Okay, and then lastly, I just wanted to just make, I guess, an overview of, the situation that we're in, and like to give a brief summary of where we are today with the fiscal year funding, and what I wrote in my director's report regarding the move to the mental health board revenues from property tax to sales tax, with the recent discovery of being underfunded at this time. So it's been exactly a week ago that we discovered that the sales tax projection error with the receipt of our first sales tax revenue of $805,187.63. We were able to receive a historical 3-year sales trend from the McHenry County, or for McHenry County, from the Illinois Department of Revenue, which showed that last year, from September 2023 through August of 2024, an annual amount of $9.7 million, with an incremental year-over-year increases that averaged about 3 to 3.5%. Therefore, instead of receiving the projected 12 to 13 million in sales tax revenue, we are now estimating for fiscal year 25 sales tax revenue to be around 10 million in this next year, which is about $1 million shy of where we are today in property taxes, and 2 to 3 million shy of where we thought we would be with the fiscal year 25 sales tax revenue. We thought trying to balance the budget this year for fiscal year 25 with 103 applications showing over 5 million in demand was difficult. However, this week's analysis and board decision to flat fund and not bring in any new programs or agencies into fiscal year 25, again with flexibility, was extremely difficult decisions. And I know even talking with some board members today, we're vacillating on that, which is normal. Even by executing the strategy of flat funding, we will be dipping into our reserves without making any cuts to programs we support. However, we know that we are not keeping up with the demand, the costs, and the overall capacity. The board's decision last night resulted in the alignment of flat funding with flexibility and allocation decisions that since we do not have the reserves that will support the rest of her overall budget beyond fiscal year 25 plan decisions we are making tonight. Believe me, many of us contemplated, and it was discussed last night, of keeping the $14 million budget, and again, we're still thinking about that. And it may work. However, without a solution for increasing revenues for our future beyond the rate of the sales tax revenue, many did not want to take the risk of putting in the $3 million of our reserves this year that couldn't be sustainable for the future. We are trying to avoid giving providers money to build capacity, only then to have to take it back in the future if we run out of reserves to support programs. This has been a difficult week, and these are not easy decisions to make quickly. For our board, For the county board members, our agencies, we appreciate the support you've given this past year and the significant efforts in educating our providers in the community and really the providers in the community for advocating for the sales tax initiative, which again will grow year after year. Therefore, I know this is a shared shock and disappointment to all. We are committed to advocating for adequate funding for mental health, substance use disorder, and IDD services, and will engage in further discussions with our county administration and county board and legislators regarding our future options and solutions. Thank you.
Has anybody got any questions? Just a second, Carolyn.
I just want to make a clarification. Oh, sorry. For those that didn't attend the board meeting last night, we did not make any decisions last night. I just want to make that very, very clear, that we did not make any decisions last night. We did not decide about flat funding today. It is a full-on open conversation that we're going to have today. So I don't want those remarks to be misconstrued because us as a board did not make any decisions. So while I appreciate an executive director report, it was just that. It was an executive director report. It was not, a board report. So I just want to make that clarification.
Any other comments? Okay. If not, we'll move on to Mike Baber in Bylaws Committee report.
Okay, the Bylaws Committee met last month, and we updated the policy to include the recent legislative changes from the Community Mental Health Act and Open Meetings Act, which, as you see in the consent agenda, has three main changes overall. Clarifying vacancy procedures and emphasizing mental health board recommendations for candidates, adding unexpected child care obligations to the acceptable list of reasons to attend remotely, and making the document gender neutral with changes from his and her and he and she to references to they and them. And that's, you'll be able to approve the updated bylaws recommended by the Bylaws Committee with the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, finance, finance and audit, Lindsay?
We did not have a meeting in the past month. For the benefit of the audience, we did have a lot of conversation about the overlap dollars, investing with our county treasurer, but given the circumstances over the last week, we had asked our executive director to, and empowered her to look into that and make some options for that. And we will not be moving forward with that, is my understanding at this point. Otherwise, business as usual. I will highlight that the interest income that we have received from last year and this year was, significantly higher than previous years, but it is trending kind of as a slowdown compared to what it was last year. So I always like to kind of highlight that as a little bit of a unique variable from year to year as how much it contributes into our budget. Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you so much. I need to have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes items 6A through 6G. Okay, Carolyn made the motion, second?
I'll second that.
Mike seconds it. We have to vote on it on your little screen. Okay. Two people haven't voted. Tap it. Tap yes. Unless you want to tap, no, I'm sorry. Okay, everybody's agreed. All right. And we passed the consent agenda. Now we have old business, which we'll now discuss. First item under old business is the funding plan that's been revised. And I need to make a correction on what you said, Carolyn. I think last night we didn't for sure said, but we were going to look at flat funding. We can change everything as we go through it, which we will go through each program briefly, because you've all read about the programs, you've gone into the computer. And so if you want to pull anything, please pull it, and we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'm going to go through it pretty fast.
You were going to go through it and then each one,
Yeah,
and then ask people if they want something different.
right. So if we look at, pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. I got to close this. Sorry, Carolyn. Okay,
Do
there you
we
go.
have, I mean, I know we have on this sheet, there's an agenda item that says funding plan revised. Yet, do we have the revised one, or are we just using what is in the column on?
It was sent out in an email to the board.
Oh, it was sent, she's saying was sent out to an email. Basically, what we did today is look at what was allocated on 24, what was requested for 25 from the agencies, and what we are looking at awarding if it's flat funding. Now, you can pull anything, this is a board decision, anything off that you want to say, hey, let's discuss and add more, whatever. But we want to try to stay with a flat funding if we can, because we've said to all agencies, probably after the first of the year, if you have some needs, come back. We'll have a better understanding on where we're at and what we have left. So we looked at flat funding. That's what's on here.
Okay, and I do have it, and I used it, it's basically what it was. But can I just say, in the future, can you please attach them to the agenda? So the public can see it too?
Oh, this was just a draft, because we haven't approved anything, but the public should be
I know,
able to
but
see it.
It's an agenda item
Right,
that has
there's-
an attachment
We've never
that,
done it.
that has an agenda item on it. It's not very transparent. It's not, I go off of the website, as I feel like everyone in the public has the availability to do. And when we're working off of something that was sent to us personally in an email, one, it introduces our email that can be FOIA-able now, which,
It should be on the board, though. I mean, you're gonna post this on the board.
I
as we-
know, I'm just saying though, and this happens often, and it's just, it happens often, and the proper place for those items to go are attached to the agenda that gets published. So everyone is on the same page. They know what we're talking about, we know what we're talking about, and we're not having to now sift through my email. I mean, I've
You
probably
should
gotten
have it in front of you.
10 emails from the mental health board in the last week. So I have it right here.
Okay.
And I have it here, but when
I
there's
get what you're saying,
an
but
item there.
it was a draft, and that's why,
But it's still, it should, even if it's in draft form, it should go on the agenda.
okay.
If we're going to be referring to it during a meeting, I would appreciate it going on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay. Do you want to put it up there while we go through it? Oh, Lindsay, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure I understand how we're handling the opioid settlement funds, because some of my desires may be to mix in that area that has impacts in the other area. So what is the order of things that we're doing?
The opiate funds were separate. I was just going to go through this. Leo was going to handle the opiate funds.
For some of our agencies that are potentially receiving funding from both buckets, are we able to talk about that agency in both arenas when we talk
Yes,
about that
yes.
agency? Thank you.
Yes. This is all open discussion. I'm just going to try to go through it because you've read it. instead of pulling out each individual one, I was going to pull out agencies and what applications they put in and what was funded the year before. So I was just going to go through it, and I think, let me just see if it's up there. I have a hard time looking this way and then looking. Yes, okay. The 22nd Judicial Court, they received in FY '24, $267,500. They requested, I gotta put on my glasses. They requested $658,119.89. If we do flat funding, it is again $267,500. That's what we're looking at awarding the county 22nd Judicial Court. Are there any questions there? I'm going to just move along until you tell me pull out, and we'll pull out. Amy?
I don't know if this is the right place for this question, but I'll ask it and then somebody can shut me up. A couple of the awards for purposes of purchases of positions seem so small that I don't know that anything can be done with them. So I would like to revisit, and I don't know how deep you want me to go here, but the DUI court purchase of position and the wellness recovery ambassador, those award amounts.
You want to pull those out?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to talk about them now?
Again, I don't know if my question can get answered, or maybe I can throw it out to general board discussion, but to me, it seems like I understand that we're flat funding, but the discrepancy between what they're asking for and what we're providing and the original amount requested seems so vast that I'm wondering if it's actually going to be helpful to give them anything. I would almost rather go back to the original amount when we thought we were working with a larger budget, because that gets them closer to what they're asking for. Because when they're asking for over 100,000 and we're, I'm sorry, nope, not that one, almost 100,000, so almost $95,000, and we're only giving them 25,000. To me, it doesn't feel like that's a fillable position.
You know, you can give more. Just remember at the end, if we're giving everybody a lot, I'm just saying, we do
Okay.
have a budget to stick with, but if everybody wants to give the DUI court.
Or we can put a pin in it. I don't mean to hold things up. I just want to mark those as for discussion.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Vicky's marking them as we go. They're now blue if you want to continue going.
I was going to answer Amy's question.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. All right, well, I didn't see your name on there.
So for any of the decisions that we're making, just to let the board know, when we're flat funding, during the work plan meetings and the budget meetings, they'll be supporting probably the same positions that were supported. So you're absolutely correct. For many of these grants, that we're not meeting the capacity that they're wanting for those positions. So, in flat funding, we would be supporting the positions that they already had. So, I mean, this is going to be across the board, and everything that we're looking at is that it's going to be going back to supporting what they had versus the growth of their programs. So, we could talk about them now, or we could pull them out. I mean, Vicky's highlighting them. We can talk about it as we go, or talk about them at the end.
How would you like to proceed? I mean, I think what Leo's saying, if we give more than we had, I understand what you're saying too. It's just we got to look at the bottom line. Then are we giving out 12 million and we can't sustain it? That's all.
You might want to maybe do it at the end if there's going to be so many that are being.
Okay, let's pull those and wait till the end. Is that okay with everybody? All right. Then let's go to Alexian. Alexian last year, or this year we're in, got $362,708. They asked for $657. I'm just going to round it off a bit, and we're looking at giving them the same. Is there a problem with that with anybody? Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Otherwise, we'll be here till, okay. Then we're going to AID. AID got $345,725. They asked for $454,320. And of course, we're looking at, and it is wrong on the allocation. If they got 345, it should be 3, not 2, 345. I'm making the change on that. On mine, it just says amount awarded 245, it should be 345. Are you following? Am I not following this right? Well, if they got 345, we're looking at giving them 3. Kara?
Do you want to speak? No, okay.
You want us to talk about it because I'm not following this.
There's a reason why that was reduced.
Oh, there was a reason why it would, thank you.
Correct.
Oh, okay, all right. So it's 245 we're looking at giving the award as. I see what you're saying. Okay, if there's no questions with AID, we'll go on to Aunt Martha's. Aunt Martha received $400,000. They asked for $500. We'll be giving them $400,000. Best Communities, that's a new program. It's a new program, so they got nothing in 2024. In 2025, they're asking for $45,170. Since it's a new program, they were given 0. Does anybody want to pull that? I want to pull it. So we'll pull that one. Child Advocacy Center of McHenry County got $135,000. They asked for $160,000. They'll get $135,000. Is there any question? If anyone has any questions, please, or wants to pull anything. Clearbrook. Clearbrook in FY24 got $542,000. They're asking for $670,314. They will get $460,000. Can you explain that, Leo? Why it's less? I don't know that.
The fee-for-service, they're going to be coming back.
Oh, they're going to be coming back, okay. Any questions with Clearbrook? If not, we'll go to Community Health Partnership of Illinois. They asked for $57,000. I'm not understanding this one at all. I'm sorry. They asked for, I don't have comments on mine.
It's okay, they're not getting anything.
They're not getting anything, but they received last year 57, okay. Sorry. Is there any questions with that? Okay. Consumer Credit Counseling of Northern Illinois, they received $38,500. They requested $47,000. They'll be getting $35,000. I'm sorry, did you, Chris? I'm trying to, it's sort of hard for
Oh,
me.
I just wanted to pull that one. I think we should at least.
You want to pull which
At
one?
least we should fund them what we gave them last year.
You're talking about the community, or consumer credit? Okay. All right, thank you. Crystal Lake Teen Center received $51,500. Was a grant. They asked for $72,529. The recommendation is $50,000. Okay, pull that one. All right. Family Health Partnership,
Are you just requesting to pull the Circle of Support or both?
I'm requesting the Break Prevention Education Program.
Okay. Okay, so both.
and is that the one you're pulling too? Both, okay. Family Health Partnership received $127,300. They asked for 167,300. We're giving 127,300. That's Family Health Partnership. Greater Family Health received 531,900. They requested that amount, and they're going to get that amount. Grief Guide, they have nothing this year because they didn't apply. They applied this year. They wanted 150,000. It's a new program. The recommendation was 0. Okay, then I'm going to go on to Home of the Sparrow. Home of the Sparrow last year had 0s, but they've been an agency that have been with us forever and do a great job. So they didn't get their application in on time. That's why there was 0 funding. They asked for 450. They will get 250,000. Horizons. Horizons is the psychiatric program. They received 324,000. They asked for 415,000. They will get 290,000. Independence Health received last year 400,000. They asked for 519. They will receive 400,000. Live for Lolly had nothing last year. They requested 544, but I believe they're under.
They had it in the opioid program.
Oh, it's in the opiate, so we'll just wait on that one. Mathers didn't have anything last year. They asked for 525, and the recommendation is 0 this year for Recovery Wellness Initiative and the OTP dispensing program in McHenry County. I want to pull that one.
That's in the opioid.
Oh, it is in the opiate, okay.
It's in the opioid.
Okay, sorry. We'll talk about it in the opiate. McDermott Center. They had nothing last year. They asked for 158, and it's a new program, and we recommended funding 0 this year because it's a new program. McHenry County Sheriff's Office. They received 275,000. They asked for 337,265, and they will get 275,000 at the sheriff's office. Pardon me, Carolyn? Okay, sure. Okay. NAMI. NAMI received 355,000. They asked for 500 for next year. They will get 355,000. New Directions, the grant program under New Directions, they received 447,000. They asked for 1.1 million, and they will be getting 777,250. All of them?
I don't know how not to pull all of them.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to go on and just tell me which one. Okay, we'll pull them all. You would pull them all, Nami? The what?
You said both of them.
Okay, pull them all, okay. All right. Northwestern Medicine or Northern Illinois Medical Center, which used to be Centegra Hospital Psychiatric, 275 is what they got last year. They're asking for 275, and they got 275. I didn't go on to the other one. Substance abuse nurse, 63,000. They asked for 63, they're getting 63. So their final number is 338,000, and that's what they will get. Northern Illinois Recovery, they received $417,973. They asked for 442,360. They will be getting 290,800. All of them? Okay. Just want to make sure I got it right. All right, Northern Illinois Special Recreation. They were awarded 50,000, they asked for 56. They were going to receive 48.5. Sure. Oh, okay. Okay. Where was I here? Northwest Center Against Sexual Assault, they received 146.7. They asked for 172. They will get 146.7. Options and Advocacy, they received last year 497,000. They asked for 678,500. They will receive 497,000. Pioneer Center. Pioneer Center, the bottom line is they asked for 700, or they got 784,350. They asked for 1.2 million. They're getting 714,350 for their programs. I didn't hear you, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we please discuss the behavioral health residential program? Will you pull it out for further discussion, please?
On all of Pioneer?
Behavioral health residential program.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. Any other one, Chris? I'm sorry. All right.
And if we could do the, that startup, the startup one as well.
The startup one, I don't see that.
It's the BHBCA or BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Services Startup. That's why I shortened it.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, sure. All right. Rockin' the Spectrum, new program, 0 last year, wants 419,789,50 cents. Put down 0 because it's a new program. Rosecrans. Rosecrans last year received 805,000. They're asking for 988, and we're recommending 705,900. I imagine. Pardon me? Pull that one? Okay.
Which one?
Rosecrans.
All of them? All of them? That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
He wants to pull them all. Okay. St. Mary's Service, they got nothing last year. They were requesting 100,000. It's 0 this year. Thresholds. Is God telling me something? I'm not going, I don't know. Thresholds is 415,000. They asked for 575. We're giving 415. TLS, which is the Veteran Services. They received 215,000. They asked for 224. They will get 215. Turning Point. They received last year 620,000. They asked for 1,045,000, and they're getting the same 620,000. Okay, now we're with Warp Core. Warp Core got $270,140. They were asking for 774,462, and the recommendation is 271,36. I would like to pull it too, so we'll pull Warp Core. All of them or just all of them? Okay. We'll go on to Youth and Family Service of McHenry County. They received 240,000. They asked for 300. They will receive 240,000. Now, do you want to go on to the opiate or go back to? Which one? Family service. Oh, okay, okay. The one that they asked for 115 and are getting 115? Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. No, they asked for 160, yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry.
McHenry?
Yeah, they asked for 160, they got 115 this year. We were recommending 115. Amy's saying pull it, right? Okay, just to make sure I got it right. Now, do we want to go back to these or go into the opiate funds? I'd like to go into the opiate funds. Okay, so Leo, you're doing the opiates,
You know what, Connie?
yes?
Before we do that, I don't know when the right time to say this is going to be.
Oh, Mike, I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's my fault.
No, it's my fault. I looked down here and that's,
Okay, it's your fault.
it's my fault.
I don't know when the right time to say this would be, so I'm just going to say it now. Ever since the meeting last night, this has been driving me crazy because we worked so hard to get the budget in good faith. So I go back to some of my days as an executive director in emergency services, and what I did back then, I used a combination of cutting fat and then 10% across the board. And then what would we come up with? Would that get us to where we want? And we haven't had that discussion yet, and we're going through here. Or would 20%? 20% would get us to where, but could people survive that? I don't know. But without ever mentioning it as an option, some people would rather have 80% of something than 100% of nothing. Just, that's where my mindset is. And cut, too, where we think that it's not viable for this year.
Okay.
Am I the only one thinking like that?
Okay, Carolyn?
I don't know if you want to discuss now, if you want to take a break, or if you want to go through all of them and then take, because I have a different philosophy. Do you want me to just air it now?
However you want to do it.
Okay.
You know,
So
if you,
I just have a different philosophy from the standpoint of kind of to recap where we'll be and why I was just wanting to clarify that I didn't intend to just follow flat funding, is because of the fact that we kind of talked about it last night. I mean, we have about a $7 million fund reserve. We're going to be getting an additional approximately $4 million. So at the end of this year, we'll have about an $11 million fund reserve. Even though we've been getting a little bit less in the interest, we're still going to be getting then, potentially double the amount of interest, which has been doing very well. So we're going to even increase over that. So, from my numbers, we'll be at like 11.5 million maybe in fund reserve, of which we've talked over and over about, responsible of that is about 5 million, which we also agreed that, we don't know where the future's gonna hold, so we would like a little bit more than that. But I'm actually comfortable looking at each one of these going forward and seeing, having that baseline of where we were in flat funding, but also, we always knew this was gonna be a questionable learning experience of a year. So I really don't have a problem continuing with that learning of a year to see where we really fall out in one, at that year mark, even 8 months. We need to have those discussions prior to a year from now. We need to start having those discussions. But I think that we have it there. I think that we'll be getting more money. We're going to have about $400,000 left from this year that will go into there. I really think and I think there's opportunities to cut in the admin. Like I said last night, I think there's a few $100,000 we could cut there. So I'm comfortable moving ahead with the discussion on, going above flat funding. And, maybe not to the point of that 14.9. I think there's room, as we've been showing, that maybe not new funding. We really have to be cautious with that because that is a continued funding. But some of these other additional ones, I don't have a problem with doing that because I think we're at a comfortable position right now.
are you saying, I guess I'm getting a little bit confused. Are you saying you want to look at every one of them? Because I.
No, the
I-
ones we talked about.
Oh, just the ones we,
pulled, yeah.
okay. Because I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
No, no,
You
just
need
the
a
ones,
new
I'm
person
comfortable
saying-
going from flat, off of the flat funding for the ones that we're looking to talk
Right.
about,
Oh,
for those
absolutely,
reasons.
absolutely. We can
Yeah,
look at
so I
that.
just want to say, I'm a little different than just like, I like the approach that we're taking and
Right,
willing to talk
right.
to, and I'm comfortable with going a little bit above that flat funding for those reasons.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm fine too. I just don't want to lose anybody. I don't
Well,
want to
and
lose
we-
anybody's program.
Well, we don't want to fund something we can't fund afterwards, but I think we all agree with that. We want to be able to fund what we can fund, but we can't give away the house because we won't be able to do it next year. And I don't want to see somebody saying, you funded me this year and you didn't fund me next year. So that's what we all feel.
Well, we're going to try like hell to make sure that we can,
Well,
if it's possible.
yes, but let's be reasonable now. I'm going to let Leo go over the opiate funds, then we'll come back, the ones we pulled, and discuss them thoroughly. Again? Okay.
Yes,
Go ahead,
me
go ahead,
again.
Lindsay.
I know. Along the same lines as Carolyn, I absolutely want us to maintain everything that we have. And I think we have enough money, as long as we don't do the whole thing, to do it this year and next year without a change, to be honest. I think there's room for us to look at things and with some level of conservatism, and everybody in this room is feeling this vibe, and if they are not fiscally responsible at looking at their alternatives, that'll suck. But I also think about the fact that this would buy them an entire year to look at their options as well. And if we're still lean a year from now, some of them might just get maintained. And some of them might have had other opportunities that, they've been able to craft. So I just, when you talk about the amount of money and what we do every year, as long as it's not $3 or $4 million more tonight, there's room to go there and not be in a panic next year to maintain that thing. So I'm in favor of looking at the ones we pulled also for those reasons.
And I think we also have said they can come back I agree with you, but they can come back at any time. It's not like one or none. They're able to come back. So let's go on to the opiate funding, and then we'll come back to the ones we pulled and discuss them. I'm sorry, there.
I just want to mention, I know you guys pulled, and I'm not influencing in any way, but I know the audience talked about the smaller agencies, Warp Core, the Break, and also YFC. And I wasn't sure if the board pulled YFC? Oh, okay, okay.
I have all the ones that were pulled. I put an X by it as you talked.
Okay.
So you want to do the opiate?
Yes. So under opioid is a better scenario. We have Live for Lolly that requested the amount of $498,973 in opioid, and we're just kind of rounding it off a little, and the recommendation was $498,900 for that program. And then also in here, we had Mathers Recovery for the satellite OTP dispensing program. That was a new program, but again, this is opioid dollars, and that was a recommendation of $175,000. And that's what we're looking at, is the $175,000 for that program. There are changes here, and we also talked about bringing in Bobby's capital request into the opioid dollars. Again, we can change the budget. We're going to be looking at that on November 6th, but when we present you with the new budget, we can change the opioid dollar amount in that budget, because we do have more dollars from when we put the NOFA out that have come in from the pharmacy. So we can support Bobby's apartments, New Directions they're not Bobby's, New Directions, the sober housing component with the 261,000 out of the opioid dollars. Is there anything that wants to be pulled that you want to change? Okay,
I would.
Oh, sorry, I'll pull it for you. I was gonna pull Mathers. I knew what you're thinking. And I have the green, so I'm good to go.
yeah. So I think we should just talk about this opioid now, since we're on it, and try to resolve this, and then we'll move on and have Connie.
And before we start that discussion too, because I have another question as well. Do you know, and it's hard for me to tell how this budget is, what that reoccurring dollar amount is on the annual basis? Is that 529,666, or is that the annual? I mean, what is the annual settlement in the budget?
From the distribution, from
Yeah.
the Janssen, that is hard to tell what the annual amount is, but we do have an annual amount that comes in there, but that seems to be a little variable too.
Well,
So-
I know there's like the new settlements that come in there,
Right.
but what is like really like the standard that we're gonna, I guess there's one amount that's already, the settlement that has already been made and is being paid out over the several years, and then the variable is the new settlements that kind of come in.
Right, and it's supposed to grow year after year, that's what we know. Yeah, at this point, what we're trying to do with the dollars that come in is year over year, have more dollars that are available through the NOFA. So that won't be a concern for us with the opioid dollars.
Well, I'm trying to get a handle on,
I know what you're asking, and I don't have the answer tonight,
okay.
just because
well,
I don't have it in front of me, and, yeah, I can get that back to you.
Well, I'm trying to get a handle on the opioid dollars in general, like, so there's, like, the remaining budget from this year is like 406, almost 407. So then I'm trying to get a feel for what's gonna be in that. If we use the 674, whatever, that random number right now because of that discussion, but where is that budget at? Like, where's the balance, what's the balance in that?
It's variable. If you look at the finance packet,
I know I am. And it's like
Yeah.
1.1 million right now. But that's 1 million right now.
right,
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And I know there is a number, because we've talked about it before.
yeah, and I
That
can
they
get,
expect annually, that is, there is one set number that is annually, and it's already built out for the next however many years. But then there's the variable amount is additional revenues that
Correct.
will come in.
correct, and I can get the board that information.
So the 1 million, but then minus the, I'm trying to figure out where we'll be, well, 407, is that, I find the opioid one hard to follow because what's gonna come in revenue?
Right. Well, at this point, I think we do have some flexibility with that budget. So we were,
Right, but I don't wanna expend it all. Like, I mean, I
Right.
think that's the whole thing. Is
oh, no, we
yeah.
don't want to expend it all. Because what we're trying to do is make sure that we grow it year after year. So again, if we're putting in, 674,000 this year, but adding possibly another 261, we want to make sure that next year we're able to put at least that, if not more, in the total budget. So we want to make sure that we're increasing it. And it is a variable amount, because some of the pharmaceutical companies, even with the, and that's why we do have to be careful with it, because some of them, besides the distribution that we are going to be getting annually, the others are very variable, and some of them are paying out, let's say, their settlements all at once in millions, and that's how they're being distributed, and some of them are choosing to pay it over time, so that we'll be getting it over time. So they're just hard for us to tell
No,
what.
But I'm looking for that one number that we
I-
do know. I mean,
I
there
can-
is
I
a
can-
number that's
yes.
already settled, and they decided to put it over the next 10, 20 years, whatever, and that number stays, it may be distributed, but there is a chart, I know somebody has it.
Yeah.
I know somebody has it.
You guys want to move on to the other decisions, and I can, if you really want that tonight, I can,
Well, I've asked for
I
before,
can-
is like, that, I've asked for it before, and I understand there's variable. I don't want to be, I would like to maintain our budget based on what that number is, and then use that extra settlement money that comes in to prolong the length of what, to like invest that or prolong the length of how much we can utilize it for. Do you know that number, Lindsay?
Okay, I'm sorry, Lindsay.
I know Melanie's not here tonight, but if I recall, and I was trying to pull it up in which packet it is, and it's hard for me to pull that up right on the spot, but even coming into this year, that overall number was less than in our first year, actually, for what we thought it was going to be until other things came in. So if, for example, and Leo or somebody over there can correct me if I'm wrong, but if, for example, we wanted to use it based on last year's allocations, not including any of those variable amounts, I think we would actually be reducing. So, there was some intention over the next couple of years of not using all of the dollars, because had we done that this year, we would have seen a reduction in services in the opioid settlement fund bucket. But we got some of those one-time payments, we got some of those things in there that we felt comfortable saying, no, we want to make sure it's this. We feel confident that we can maintain this. And every year, it's a kind of determination. And so in this first run, the conservative number is actually probably based on the original year's, or last year was the, original year's allocation amounts in dollars. And then, or this current year was the first full fiscal year, I should say. I don't know if Leo would comment on that, but that was my understanding, is that that amount that we can count on is actually less than what we started with. So, and I can appreciate if that's still a number you want to understand and know and make sure we're at today, but I suspect you don't want to reduce based on that.
Well, my thought process is that I don't have a good handle, if we're gonna be adding funds or increasing it, like, I don't have a good handle on what is the opioid fund
right.
right now.
And I can spend
What is
time.
it projected for FY '25?
And I can spend time on trying to find that number if you want to move on to the other.
Okay.
And sorry, I'll just say it
I just
out
don't want
loud.
to allocate more than we have, and I also don't want to allocate
Right.
to the max that we have, because we
Right.
do need some sort of,
Correct.
Well, that's why we budgeted it the way we did. But is flexibility to add new directions, but there's not that much more flexibility. So we did budget this amount because that is what the amount that we projected we could handle.
right, but then you just threw at us that new directions. Well, if you budgeted this amount and you're talking another $260,000, then we're now $260,000, or, $90,000 if we take out the other one. We're still over that amount. So,
Correct.
I don't want to then approve something that's over an amount that we don't know what that amount is right now.
I understand what you're saying, but again, it's supposed to be growing year after year. And we can, from our projections, we can afford, we got a lot more dollars this year than we
Right.
had planned. So we can't afford that little amount. I can try to find that information for you, and if you want to move on, and I
I
apologize.
just don't want to spend all that money. I think we've agreed that we're not going to spend all
I just want to apologize
of
if
that
I'm looking
money.
close on my computer. I have an eye issue that
I've looked at a bunch of different things.
I
I
took
can't
out my
find it, so.
contact, and I can't see, so I am very close to my computer. I will try to find that information.
I haven't been able to find it, so thanks.
Okay. So do we want to move to,
Why don't we go back to, I gotta get myself on here. Why don't we go back to these, well, she looks, let the opiate rest. Let's go back to the very first one that we pulled, which is 22nd Judicial Court DUI program. We gave them $25,000, they asked for $94,000 for the DUI program. It's a purchase of position. Amy, do you want to discuss that? I'm just going down by the line. Okay, sorry.
I thought it was me. Yeah, I am on now. Yes, thank you. Yes, so the DUI court, yes, as you said, they asked for almost 95. I would like to suggest our 67,000. So rather than 25, but giving them 67,000. That was the, yes, that was the recommendation before we did the revision.
Okay, 67 even.
Yes.
Does anybody have any, whoa. Does anybody have any discussion or wants to go ahead with that, to put the 67,000 in? Yeah, these are county programs, okay, I'm just saying. And yes, it would raise us from 25 to 67, I'm not good with math, but minus.
I can do that. Yeah, I'll tentatively support that if we can get the way we want it.
Okay, does anybody else have any issues, or do you want to put 67,000 in? Yes, Carolyn?
And I was gonna suggest, on that one, I had I had the same two programs that Amy had, talked about, just because I think last year we had discussed these programs as well, and we didn't end up, funding them additionally. So I was fine, I would almost suggest, because I've asked before in that total that there can be some movement, so if we do maybe increase, they might have some movement between those programs as they see fit.
So you're saying 67,000 for the DUI program and for the Wellness Ambassador program?
Well, my thought is just, like increasing by an amount that they can kind of interchange if they would so choose. And I think that Leo had indicated that
So,
they do get some bit of flexibility on that.
okay, so the Ambassador program, leave as it is and just give the 67,000 so they can play with that? Is that what
My
you're,
thought process, I'm open to other things, though.
yes, Amy? Okay, I'm sorry there.
I mean, I don't want to go too crazy. I like that. I had forgotten that they could kind of move between them. I mean, we are pretty short. We're over 30,000 off also from the
Remember,
wellness.
we did a grant for them too, a big grant. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, I'll leave it as is then. Yeah, so we'll leave the Wellness Ambassador with the 18 and fund 67, and then if they need to move things around a little bit, they'll have a little
We
bit
can
more.
come back. Okay, I agree with that. Does everybody else have okay with that? Because then we'll move on. Okay, so 67. The next one that we pulled was Best Communities, and I pulled that. And the reason I pulled that is because I think we need to go back to Best Communities and tell them that they can get their money under the training program at the Mental Health Board. They don't need to get a grant, they can get training dollars, because it's basically training. I can't remember the initials, whatever she's training. But she can come back and get that money under our training program. That's why I pulled it, to bring that awareness. Pardon?
Me. Yeah, it's actually me. So can they do that as a new provider?
Yes,
Are they allowed to do-
anybody can get money from, if they're doing training for things that we need. And this
Okay.
was a basically training program.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, wouldn't come out of this budget, would come out of a
But even not, I just want to, even
Yes.
not as a currently funded provider?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so now I want to go down to consumer credit counseling. You want to run this thing? Because I'm trying to do this, and it's hard for me. Yes?
I know in the original comments for Best Communities, there was some staff comments about moving them into like an ICA kind of agreement. I just, as Carolyn has talked about, looking at administrative cuts potentially to the budget, those are some of the things we build into that budget. And so I feel a little lost about comments like, hey, pull it out of the training budget, or can we do an ICA? I feel like it's a great program. I love the philosophies of it. I want to support it. I also just want to say that, I don't know if those are the dollars we're talking about potentially cutting from our admin.
But who
budget.
says we're cutting it? Carolyn mentioned it. Who says we, as a group, are going to cut our administration?
We're dialoguing about it,
Okay.
and that is something I wanted to draw attention to, is that if that's something that we value and we think we want done in that method, and I think our staff felt more confident in doing it in that method, that I want to make sure we keep that in mind if we do look at administrative cuts, that that's not a place that we cut, because this is something it seems like people would like to see move forward in one form or another.
What's the amount? I can almost-
It was, they were asking $45,000.
45,170.
And what they're training is, it was what we need in this county to work in. And I think that we should fund it, but we can fund it in, not in this dollars in our training budget. Because I have a problem thinking about cutting administration and this. That's just me. So that's why I pulled it. I was the one who pulled this, and I just wanted to make that recommendation, that we give them some funding dollars because of what they're doing. And these people, yeah, I mean, basically, they're working at, what's your program? I'm drawing a blank. And Warp Core and everything else, and I think that's a really important program. So,
This is the one that's for certified peer recovery support
Yeah,
specialists. I'm
recovery
not sure that
specialists.
you were present during their presentation.
No, but I do know what it is.
And it would train and guide peer
Recovery
recovery
specialists.
support specialists that could then be placed in other agencies, including already in some of our funded agencies.
Is there any downside to supporting them out of the?
just a minute, Mike, you gotta put your thing on. Okay, go ahead.
Is there any downside to taking their funds from a different place in the budget?
Well, the downside is what Lindsay's saying, would be that we don't want to cut the administration budget for training if we put this in the training. We don't want to do that.
Then it's not viable. to
Well, who
pull.
says you're going to cut? I mean, that was a suggestion. I mean, that's not a for sure thing.
I would say, I would, as long as we support it, I think we fund them. And this is where it gets crazy, because 45,000 to some agency that's getting 20 million is not going to be a big deal, but to them, that's the end of the program.
So you're making the recommendation we
That we
fund
keep
them
it.
out of our dollars.
Yeah.
Discussion?
I will add that I know this one was in the opioid settlement funds as well.
Okay.
And I don't know, I just want to make sure, because I think the spirit of the original ask was to support both certified peer recovery support specialists in the mental health and substance use disorder sectors. So I don't know if
It would fly.
I really just honestly don't know the answer, if there would be limitations to what they could do with those dollars if it was funded there. But I wanted to draw attention that it was there. I think there were some staff concerns and considerations about this being a fairly new business and entity that I think were valid on their scoring rubric, and part of why they had originally recommended something under an ICA. And a lot of faith in the concept that that person in particular would be able to do that. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this. I do think that there's good reasons potentially to put it under our administrative budget so that there's more staff oversight in what we are agreeing to, whether it's through training or in a specific agreement. So I actually like the idea of doing that. I just want to make sure those dollars are there for it, if that's what we're all thinking.
Well, I pulled it because I just didn't want it to go on and get zero. I think through the ICA
Okay.
that it would be good. I mean, we need this you know, the recovery specialists, they use them everywhere and they're needed, so. Okay. Thank you. Carolyn, I'm sorry.
Thanks, no, that's okay. I just wanted to clarify, because I'm hearing a couple different things. I thought you wanted to put it into the mental health board administrative budget, under training.
Yeah, we could do that or the ICA, whatever you want.
And I think that's what Lindsay's advocating for as well, correct? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, and I'm fine with that. I only made this suggestion before on areas we could cut, because I went off of like last year's numbers.
Right.
So I wouldn't anticipate, cutting an area that we're being very intentional about including services in.
Right.
And so I think that would, if you guys are comfortable with that, I mean, I think that's great to put it into the mental health board training, if you think
Okay,
that
is
will.
everybody in favor of that? Then we'll just move on, and that's where we'll put that to fund it. Okay. I'm going to go on to consumer credit counseling. That was pulled. And I don't know who pulled it and who wanted it. Okay. Just a second, Chris. You're on.
It was me. I just really kind of couldn't understand why we were funding them. I know we had a minor utilization concern, but given that our effort is to flat fund in general, and that this is a very small agency, they're probably very dependent on even minor amounts of funding discrepancy, and I was going to suggest that we try to flat fund them.
You mean like come across and give the 28.5 instead of the 25? Is that what you're saying? Or 35? I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on consumer credit card. Not that I felt that way, but many times on the board, they felt that it didn't fit exactly what we do in consumer credit counseling. So it was always, we always did more in that program, and then in years, we started cutting back, and we asked them to do a form, that they had to have a form to fill out that who they were serving to show that they had a mental health issue, so that they fit. I'm just telling you, years ago, there was a lot more money in that program. But you're saying what you'd like to do is do the 38 instead of the 25. Am I correct? No? What are you saying? There you go, Chris.
Yeah, they had 38.5 last year. Right now, it says we're going to fund them at 35, and I'm suggesting we at least flat fund them. So if we've decided we're going to make an investment, then we should make the investment.
We should do 38.5 is what you're saying.
Yeah, if we've said we're going to flat fund people,
Okay.
then we should
38.5.
flat fund them.
Okay. I have no problem with that. Does anyone else have a problem with that?
Well, I was comfortable with staff's recommendation on that one from the standpoint of, I'm looking at their current, and I know it's minor, but I'm just looking at their current utilization, and their current utilization is underutilized even as of today and I think that's why staff was recommending. I think they were giving more of a realistic number. And I do think that there's a couple other ones that we, just conceptually, regardless of the amount, that we utilize that same philosophy of if they were underutilized right now, then they got cut for this year based on their current utilization. And I think this is one of those. So even though it's a small amount, I think using that same philosophy that we used in other ones would be consistent.
So you say keep it at,
I just would, because, or else, or else it just might be money that is gonna have to come back and that somebody else could have had, a few $1,000s into their program and actually used it currently.
so you,
Remember, fee-for-service can come back.
oh yeah, fee for service can always come back. So you're saying keep it at 35, and you're saying go to 38.5, so that's flat funding. What is the board's decision here? Amy, you're next.
No, I saw this fee for service and had the same thought as what Leo just commented. They can come back. I know it's a small amount, but it feels like it's easier for them to come back and ask for more if they need it than for us to try to reclaim those funds and reuse them. So even though it's small, I do agree with the comments of keeping them at 35 for now, and then they do have the opportunity to come back and ask for more.
It's all, a fee-service can come back. So is everybody for keeping it at 35? Or to go to 38.5? Thoughts?
Yeah, we gotta start
So 30,
Google somewhere here.
okay, we'll keep it at 35, unless somebody really has, okay, I'm going to move on. Crystal Lake Teen Center. Somebody pulled this. So what is it you want to do with whoever pulled the Crystal Lake Teen Center? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I look here and then I have to look there.
You're okay?
Multitasking isn't my job. Okay, go ahead.
I know, for me, I pulled I call them the Breaks Prevention Education Program, which was presented to us about the kids that were going to be expelled from school, and, you know, the program that sort of developed over the last year or so, and the value that it added, the concept that they would expand into multiple towns in our area. Just seems like an incredible value add for our young people and a service to our schools who are overburdened, and our school counselors who are struggling with maybe those high needs folks, and the families as well that need a place for them to be. So to me, this was I want to find the money for the full $70,351. And in the spirit of being frugal, if I was going to pull it from somewhere, I would be pulling it from the Mathers methadone request dollars that are in the opioid settlement funds. This program also exists in there. That's where I would pull that. My reasoning for that is some of the comments that were said tonight, some of the comments that have been said to me in the past about Mather's ability to consistently meet the needs of the community, the needs of programs and grants that they've had in the past, and do so in a quality way that there's.
Can I interrupt you a minute? I don't
Yeah.
think we need to talk about where we take it from. We just need to talk about if we want to raise the price. I don't think that's something that we, would say. And I have no problem with what you're saying, because I think it's a valuable. I worked in a school system, and when a kid is suspended, at least they have somewhere to go. So I'm all for giving the 70,000. We don't have to put where we were going to pull from, that's all.
I can speak more of my truth when Mathers comes up then.
You can,
Okay,
but I don't think you need to talk about where to pull it,
That's
that's
fine.
all.
I'd like to see that at the full amount. I'm just saying that I'm comfortable pulling it from somewhere else instead of adding to the bloat.
Is anybody not in favor of the full amount too?
Where was it, staff recommendation before? There was a reason.
Well, 40, they can't really do a position, that's for sure, unless,
Oh, it was really for balancing the budget is why, again, a lot of these staff recommendations were for balancing the budget originally.
but we have the money, like Carolyn was saying, we do have,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is a very valuable program.
Yeah, I think the original recommendation was 40,100 for that program.
Is that what you're recommending?
No? I'm recommending the full ask.
I'm recommending that too. 70,
70.
351,000.
And you're recommending that to come out of the annual, not out of the opioid?
Out of the annual.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with that? No. Okay, then we're going to move on. Okay, Amy?
I just want to make the comment, I think this is a good example of a program. I mean, I think there's lots of opportunities within this program. In particular, if the numbers are there, it's kind of a little bit of a startup, in my opinion, and I think the school district should actually be investing more in this program that they even are. So I think once it gets started up, I mean, I would encourage, you know, the opportunity is there, and I think this is an example of, we can invest now. They know they need to look to other sources and show that the numbers are there to actually have that investment and utilize grant, you know, our grant writer potentially or something like that.
Right.
But this is one, I don't have a problem with full funding, with the stipulation that really, let's produce the numbers and look into other opportunities to fund in the
Yes,
future.
yes. So we're all in favor of that. Let's move on. The next one that we pulled was Lindsay. Mathers OTP dispensing program.
I thought there was circle of support for Chris.
Yeah, well, I've just got it here that we,
Still on the break. You're still on the break with Circle of Support.
I'm on the break for what?
The Circle of Support, the other program.
Oh, well, we had 51, 5, and we offered 50. Does some, okay, did you want to talk about that? Oh, Chris, I'm sorry.
Sorry, again, I'm just kind of back to the same issue with if we're gonna flat fund somebody, let's flat fund them, and why would we take a small agency and take small
Okay.
additional amounts of money away from them?
What is the reason?
I don't see the reason in here.
What's the reason, Leo?
It was really due to the budget constraints, you know, that it went to that, but also we were supporting half of the building manager position. So the 50,000 supports all the purchase of positions, but only half of the building manager, because it's not a clinical position. But again, I'm not going to argue about if you, but that's, the original request was, or the original recommendation was the 50,000, was due to supporting half of the building manager. It's up to the board.
Well, I think Chris is saying she'd like to have 51,500. Does anybody have an issue with that, going that high? No. Okay, so we're putting 51,500 in it and 73,501 for the grant. Okay, we won't talk about Mathers here. I think we're going to talk at Mathers and the opiate. Now we're back to the McHenry County Sheriff's Department. I believe that was Carolyn.
Yeah, thanks. And I know this was one last year too, similar to the courts that we had debated and talked about. And I think actually, and someone else may recall it better than I, but I think that there was the way that they did their grant, or their way they did their request last year, even it got, because it was for maybe a vehicle, so it actually got taken out. And if you look at the numbers actually from 2023, we had put in 300,000 into that program. So it was cut back. I think there was like, I'm literally going off a year's memory. I think there was like a $40,000 allocation, one that got kind of taken out because of the fact that it didn't qualify because it was for a vehicle or something. So anyways, so I would, I don't know that I would recommend necessarily going to the, I'm looking at my page wrong, but I would recommend maybe like that 300,000, at least matching their 2023 number.
Instead of 275, instead of 275, you're saying go to 300?
That's what I, kind of in between the two, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I'm
Because I
just
think
trying
there
to.
was an issue last year as to why, so, okay.
Okay. I know that way back when the program was started, we said we'd put in X amount of dollars, and then we wanted other people to start funding it too. Okay, Leo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to remind the board regarding the police social work program that, as Connie talked about, we did agree to, we had intergovernmental agreement with them, and we did agree to fund at least a third of the program. So the application that they brought in we were recommending that full funding for the 337,200, and that would support our third of the funding. So I just wanted to remind the board that that was the agreement that we had, but I know it's really hard to meet that So, Carolyn's suggestion of 300,000 is fair, but if the board also wanted to go further, we could. I know there were discussions about, making some cuts to the county programs, but, this is a program that, is very needed. Yeah, in the county as well. So I just wanted to remind the board that the recommendation was for the full funding like it was for a lot of these programs. But again, I think the 300,000 is fair, if that's where the board wants to be.
I think it's fair, too. Does anybody else have a problem if we put in 300,000 for the sheriff's department? Okay. They know, the sheriff, the county, they know what the position we're in. I think they'll be thankful that we went to 300. Okay. NAMI. Somebody pulled all of NAMI, so. Okay.
And I did again, just because, we heard the accolades this morning. I mean, I think they've been doing really significant work within the community. I just was hoping to maybe be a little bit of an increase to allow them some of that growth and to do even better things with it. I just feel like this is I don't know, I just feel like it's maybe one that's really grown and can continue to grow. So I don't know that we go to the full request, but I do think it's one that, maybe $10,000, $15,000 additional could make a difference in their programming.
Okay, so 220 for recovery support, is that what you're saying?
Sure.
And how
Whatever.
about 175 for the community education program? I mean, I'm just adding 20. Okay.
Connie, we had somebody from the public ask if you guys can talk closer to your mics. They
I'm
really
sorry.
can't hear unless you
I'm
talk into
sorry.
your mics.
NAMI.
everybody. Thank you.
NAMI, we're looking at increasing it, because they've done so well, Carolyn said, and the rewards and all that, that instead of 155, doing 175, and instead of 200, doing 220. Does anybody have a problem with that? I think that's a good recommendation, Carolyn. Okay. Now we're down to new directions. And everything was pulled for new direction, so I don't know who wanted to pull it and who wants to discuss it. Lindsay?
I don't know how to talk about this without talking about both the buckets. Is that okay? Okay,
We
great.
can talk about both.
By buckets, I mean the opioid settlement funds and the budget that we're in right now, because a lot of these were duly requested. And as we all know, New Directions came forward and told us that they lost other grants, that they'd like to move around some of their original requests to different budget line items within the programs that they put out there. So I'm very pleased with the idea of funding the housing, the capital project, and the opioid settlement funds. I think it's in great alignment with the goals of the opioid settlement fund abatement. And I know that our staff double-checked that investments in something like capital are allowable in that opioid settlement funds. And I think it's a good use of one-time money that we can't count on year to year, so I really do believe it should be there. In regards to their, regular programming that they're very concerned about a reduction in, I want to make sure that we are maintaining services, which is very complicated because we can't necessarily look at FY '24 allocations because New Directions had other dollar amounts that they were getting from grants. And so I think they offer incredibly valuable services. I think they do a good job. They have a good reputation. I hear positive things all the time about our Way Out program, their sober living program, and I'd like to see us try to meet the need that they have in either bucket. Once again, if it comes down to taking, I know where I want to take from, some extra dollars. But I'd like to propose that we try to meet the asks that Bobby presented to us a couple of meetings ago. Those are the goals. How we do that and divvy that up between the two programs is a little elusive to me at the moment.
I think, isn't it in there, though?
Let's do it in this funding, in the annual funding.
I thought, I look at what 24 was and what we're looking at awarding them, which is a lot more.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm looking at that. And I'm looking at even a way out in what was recommended.
Yep.
So you're wanting more, I'm just trying to understand it.
I want to make sure that we get the housing and the opioid settlement funds.
Okay, yeah.
And like I said, it was a little mixed, so it was unclear to me if we were going to be pulling dollars from anywhere. This is where I don't want them to get pulled from, but I also want to make sure that that housing program gets through, which is in that other bucket.
Right.
So I wanted to just start a discussion in case anybody was not liking that idea. But I want to make sure that they get their needs met.
So you're with the amounts that have been awarded, but taking that housing for the opiate dollars and make sure that we get it there? Okay, I have no problem with that.
Correct.
Does anybody else? Okay. Just a second, Chris?
Sorry, I was speaking to the mic. I actually think that, the 260,000 for the purchase for New Directions property is a great investment for us and capitalizes on the ARPA funds that they have and would be a great use if we're trying to spend down reserves or we're trying to spend down overlapping funds or interest income or something like that. Potentially moving either New Directions or NIRC into the opioid funds if we're going to take Mathers out, freeing up more money within the annual funding for these other increases that we're talking about that are not actually offset in any way. And it's just a challenging decision-making context because we haven't actually decided how much money we're going to spend. We
Right.
haven't created this is our budget, let's allocate this amount of money. We haven't decided how much of our reserves we're going to spend on what schedule in order to allow us to get through until the property tax values rise to at least meet the budget that we currently have available.
Well,
So,
I think that when we finish today and we look at what recommendations, we're going to add it up. We're going to see the bottom line today.
I don't know, ideally, we would have done that before making choices, but, I agree with Lindsay on everything that she said about the value of these services and the reasonable, kind of opportunity for a one-time capital expenditure. I think that that's great. And my other question had to do really with equity of changes across our substance use disorder provision programs. So right now, Live for Lolly is up about $200,000. Mathers would be up $175,000 from nothing unless we remove that, to Lindsay's point. New Directions is up $300,000 without the property, and Northern Illinois is down $120,000. Some of which was utilization-based, but some of which was not. So I'm looking for equity across our substance use treatment providers.
You want to answer that, Leo?
I know that one of the things that I tried to look at, Chris, was which programs were our fee-for-service versus grant, and decisions that we make today that are, and I know we talked about being creative last night and allowing some of those people to come back, but our industry standard has been that fee-for-service providers can come back. And I did also look at NIRC, and I hope they do come back, because I think that they could probably serve as an endless population of people, but at least they would know that's the budget that they have to start with. So for me, with equity, I hope that when we look at dollars the rest of this year in our fee-for-service, that we're doing a good representation across our three mental health, SUD, and IDD populations. for fee-for-service or capital funding projects or whatever we would do. At least for me, it felt like they have the flexibility, whereas some of these grants and purchase of positions don't necessarily have that flexibility. But that's my take on it.
Any more discussion here, or how you want to go ahead? So we're looking at, what is your recommendation, Chris or Lindsay? I mean, I don't have a recommendation that I've written down. Oh, I got to turn you on, okay.
I mean, I'd like to formalize the opportunity for people to return to us for alterations to grant and purchase of position, funding choices. And I just know that even though we tell people who are under fee-for-service contracts that they can come back, that they don't always. We have some that do and some that don't. And I do feel like it feels like it's kind of burdensome, I think, to the agencies to do that. And it's just my observation.
When I was at an agency, if you want to come back for money and you're told you can come back, you come
Right.
back.
But they don't. So, I'd like to fund people up front to the greatest extent possible, instead of saying, we're gonna underfund you now with the expectation that you're coming back. So, I guess my recommendation is that we agree to purchase the property for New Directions under either, overlap funding or out of reserves.
And then the other recommendations are fine with what you're looking at? No?
I'd just like to make a proposal that maybe we pull these out to the end of the discussion, the choices where we could put it in either bucket. Feel confusing when we're talking about decisions of,
But you're only
funding.
looking at putting it in one bucket. It's the,
I understand, but to Chris's point, what she's saying is, you can free up dollars in this budget if you apply them to the other opioid settlement funds budget to a certain extent, which would, I believe, require us removing some of the recommendations in that bucket if we so chose.
I think you're wrong.
Okay.
I think that if we take the housing and move it to opiate dollars, that is gone over to opiate dollars. Am I correct? I'll put you on.
Yes, I think we're all in agreement on that.
And the
or
rest of it,
Chris and
if
I.
they're getting more than what they had,
Yeah, the board recommendation was for the opioid dollars, again, the Live for Lolly amount, the Mathers amount, and that we can absorb the 261. If you choose to not support Mathers, which is what I'm hearing, there could be another 175 available from this fund, but I would not, I can talk about the opioid dollars, but I wouldn't go much more above that. So there's not, again, that budget was set for a reason, so I wouldn't go above that.
Can I ask a clarification point? If somebody has a duplicate request, which is how we ask them to do it, if it makes sense, in the two areas, and there's portions of dollars in one bucket and portions of dollars in another bucket, are we able to make a decision to support one program in that way?
In both buckets, yeah, we've done it, we did it before in the past, and we can certainly do that in the future. It just makes it very complicated, both for the provider and for the mental health board. And that's more from the outcomes perspective, because the outcomes get split. So the outcomes, when they report their monthly and their quarterly service data, they come in two different buckets. And yes, they can be combined, but it just makes it very difficult for both. So it's cleaner to have it in one bucket. And again, we do have the dollars in our budget. Part of me feels like we should have just kept with the same $14 million budget. We do have the dollars in our current budget. I don't think we need to do much more with the opioid than what was recommended, and just do what you're doing at this point with pulling out what's needed, what you believe is needed, and putting those recommendations in. I think we're fine with doing the process that you're currently doing right now. And I do have the information on the opioid, which we'll go back to. But that's my recommendation at this time. I think you guys are doing great work. This is hard. So I would just continue with what you're doing.
So we're going to move over the housing to opiate, and the other recommendations will stand. Am I correct? Because it's a heck of a
I can
lot.
support that.
Okay. Has anybody got any problem with that?
And I don't have a problem with that. Oh, sorry. I just, to kind of throw a wrench in it, I know we had talked about potential of putting that capital project into this year's budget too. So I don't know if we wanted to, I don't know if we want to put in the opioid or if it was something that's doable this year, because I do think there's like $400,000 in this year, so I don't know if we want to defer that conversation. I mean, I'm just open to, that idea as well.
I understand where you're coming from, but that's a decision that we have to decide what Carolyn's saying, and I was under the understanding, I didn't know that we were looking at this coming from opiate funds.
The capital project for New Directions, I know we had talked at previous meetings of potentially putting it into this year's budget. So that was just, and I know that there was like that $400,000 leftover, or, we're gonna be under fund, according to the most recent funding report.
Right.
It was like 400 and some $1,000s. So I didn't know if that's where we were talking about taking it from that amount now, or, I guess I thought that's where we were headed, so.
Yeah, because I thought, I'm with
So,
Carolyn.
so if you guys can recall, the New Directions capital request didn't come in as an application. That came in as a request to the board. It was determined, you determined at that time that we would support it in fiscal year '25, at some point if we had the dollars. Again, we're just throwing it in there. It wasn't officially in, it won't be an application grant. It can be coming in later, but we were putting it in the $261 in, into this proposal, into this mix, to just tell you that it can be supported through opioid dollars in the next year. So it's not part of the application process,
But
per
don't we
se,
want to
but-
use it this year?
But there was, I guess, there was a meeting, wasn't there a meeting
we
where it
don't,
was
we
brought
don't,
up
we
could
don't
put it-
have the dollars this year.
Okay. Well, is on the budget that said there's still 400,000 under? Is that,
Oh, you mean in the opioid?
no, just in general?
In general?
And the latest-
clarify something, please? Sorry.
Yeah.
There is an application under the levy funding, but not under
Opioid.
opioid settlement funding.
Right,
But there is an application for fiscal year '25.
Thank
right,
you for that clarification.
right, thank you.
And I guess I'm just bringing it up because that's how I read the latest financial report I read, to have we're under budget by $400,000. And I don't know, Lindsay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how I read it. So that will either get rolled into fund balance, or it could be my understanding was we were going to potentially use that money to fund this capital project in FY '24.
That was my understanding also.
Yeah, and we looked at it, and currently with unallocated right now, officially unallocated dollars, we have, and again, that was the recommendation that we'd look at it to fund this year, is actually mine. But when we looked at it, we have 60,000 of unallocated, and we could free up another 275. But again, when freeing up those dollars, what we need to do is go out to the agencies, adjust their contracts, send that all in. It would be easier. Yes, there's going to be dollars coming in, and I think you'll be right, Carolyn. I think it'll be probably close to 350, 400, maybe by the end of the fiscal year. It just gets to be really hard to change all those contracts right now, get all those signatures, make those changes to make that happen. We could do it. We can check with Christie. She's got some more of the unallocated, but we believe that is what we can do.
Yeah, and maybe if she could, the number I'm talking about is on the report, our current month-end report. and it says under or over budget, and there's a number of 401,668.96.
Okay, I'm pulling it up. So one,
And it's on the over, or under, I mean, it's not in parentheses, it's just a flat number.
so one of the issues is any money that we have for this year would have to be used. That means it had to be approved and go through the entire process and used before November 30th.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue.
Yeah, that is the biggest issue with the
So we
capital.
can approve
And
it
we
in
did ask Bobby if he would be able to use those dollars this year, and he said no. It wouldn't. He could, when we talked to him, he said by the latest would be April, May, that he needed the money.
Okay, then
But-
that helps. I don't think that conversation ever concluded, so I was still under the impression we were going in that direction.
Yeah, sorry
So,
about that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's going to opiate for sure. Okay, so everything there is fine with taking that 361 to opiate. I'm just turning my page here. The next one was Northern Illinois Recovery. Purchase of physician and fee for service. Somebody asked that be pulled. Chris?
This is the issue that I brought up previously, that we're, increasing rates of funding to other mental health and substance use disorder providers and decreasing funding to NIRC. If we decided not to fund Mathers, we could fund NIRC under the opioid funding settlement dollars for the amount we're funding Mathers for and restore at least a portion of what they're losing.
For which program?
The SUD detox. Is it okay to have one program under one funding source, as long as it's not like one program funded by both funding sources? That's the bad thing. Okay.
And I guess I'm not following. Who decided we're not funding Mathers?
We had a discussion, so if that's concluded, when we finish our discussion of
Okay,
opioid funding
'cause,
dollars, this would
yeah,
be one
I'm
option
opposed to that.
to
Okay.
treat that decision process.
Okay.
And again, that's fee for service, so they can come back.
So what is your recommendation on the SAP and the detox and treatment? That's fee for service, yeah? What is your recommendation that we do? I'm sorry, I thought I had
I
you.
turned it off, so.
Okay.
I'd recommend going with the staff's recommendation for the SAP program based on utilization, but would like to increase funding on the SUD detox program.
Say that again, you recommend the 217?
With the 140.
I'd like to go back to the funding we gave them last year at least for the SUD detox and treatment services for the underserved.
Okay. Okay. So it would be 417 was last year's, and,
No, no.
what do you mean, no? But the other one was 217 and was recommended 14. Okay. All right, I'm trying to, okay. And the other one goes to 200. Okay, thank you for that. Is everybody okay with that, Carolyn?
And actually, if you look at the utilization numbers, like the current utilization, they're really under in utilization. They're at like 64% where they should be at 83%. And then, so that's at like 128,000 year to date. And then if you look at their 2023 numbers, they were even like half of what that 200,000 is. So if it's fee for service, I just think it would free up that 50,000. I mean, they are not even gonna hit, they'll probably maybe hit 150,000 this year. Actually, if you do the numbers, if they would be on track to be right at 150,000 this year, based on their current utilization. So I don't know if there's somewhere in the program that shows that's gonna change at all. But if there's not, I just would hate to put $50,000 in there when they could come back if they really needed it. But, so I guess just their numbers don't show it. Their numbers don't show that they're, you
They
can,
don't.
Yeah, and I can explain a little bit.
I'm agreeing with her because I looked at the numbers too.
And again, they're here in the audience, they could probably speak better to it, but what they try to do with the fee-for-service dollars, because they also have, the match component to it, is utilize it throughout the year, so knowing that the dollars that they have. So they probably will utilize, they have utilized all the majority of their funding that we've given them to date fully. So they probably will utilize it, but I do agree with the board that they can come back, the 150, giving 50,000 for a fee-for-service program, for any of the fee-for-service, because they can come back. So whatever direction the board wants to go is give the 50,000 now or wait. The staff recommendation originally was the 150 due to the budget constraints, because we felt like that was enough to at least get them through a majority of the year and that they can come back. But whatever the board wants to do, if they want to fund it to the 200 or 150, but I just wanted to remind you that, they are fee-for-service programs, so they can come back.
So how many of you are in favor of the 150? Okay. 150 because they can come back?
That's,
Okay, we're raising it to 200. We did 1? 2? What is this, Mike? Yes or no? I don't know.
Stretching my hand.
Okay.
You know,
They can come back I'm just saying, if it's fee for service, you'd come back.
and they will come back,
They will. They will, definitely.
so it's either now or then. Do we really want to?
Well, you're tying up 50,000 if you put it in there. That's the only thing.
it's fine.
No.
It's fine what?
I mean, whatever the board decides.
That's what
it's
I'm
really-
saying too,
right.
whatever the board decides. Yes, Carolyn?
I know where I stand on it. I mean, it probably should be some sort of a formalized vote from the standpoint of like, if the board decides in 200, I just can't stand by because the numbers don't show it to me. Like, right now, the projections for FY '24 are, a max of 171,000. And like I said, and that was probably even on the high end, based on their current utilization rates. And the year before, it was at 107,000. So I just don't see it. I don't mind if people want to go to $200,000, but I'm kind of that thinker that I have to be consistent. And in this one, I stand by staff's analysis that they felt it was underutilized, and that's their recommendation. So it was consistent with that last one I did, which was minor, and this one's even bigger. So that's where I stand on it, and I'm fine taking a vote on it, and
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do we want to put in 200 or 150? Because I'd like to move on. I'm with you. I think that because it's fee for service, if they go over, they come back.
Yeah, and the staff recommendation wasn't based on utilization, it was based on the budget constraints in the past budget. So that was basically based on the budget constraints, or we would have given them 200,000.
So I'm saying, how many of you, by a raise of hand,
I'll retract the recommendation because I have other recommendations.
okay, so we'll leave it at 150. All right, then if we move along, we go to Pioneer Center, and we have a purchase of position for a certified behavioral analyst startup, that's a startup program, and a behavioral health residential, which is a new program too. Somebody pulled these. Was that you? Okay.
And the reason I pulled this is I think we've had this discussion before, that startups are, a one-time investment that can create a new program in this county that could be self-sustaining, and I think this is an example of that. So I think it's a good utilization of dollars to get new programs up and running in the county with a one-time fee or investment, whatever you want to say, allocation. So I would be for fully funding the $40,000.
And the 198?
No, I'm just talking about the one program.
Oh, just, okay. But when I pulled it, I pulled the other one too? Oh, I'm sorry, okay. All right, are we all in favor of the 40,000? Okay. Then I'm going to go to Chris.
Yeah, I know our statement was we were not funding new programs in order to flat fund, but the BH residential program isn't really a new program. Like, we did fund it previously. We funded scholarships for people with chronic and severe mental illness to allow them to be served in a group home setting. And these are the only group homes that we have in McHenry County for people with mental illness. There's a significant rate of need. There are long waiting lists. And previously, we gave scholarships to try to allow people to become stabilized in their new living arrangement while they were able to try to get, you know, their SSI, while they were able to get employment and so forth. And this year, the program came back and said that they would like some assistance with providing, you know, people with this stability in housing to be able to be maintained there. They were told that's housing, we don't support housing. They came back with a recommendation that we support staff. And when they've already closed, or they are closing one of the 5 group homes that they have in the community, and if we don't give them any funding at all, my worry is we're gonna lose more. And would be going the opposite direction of the direction that we need to go in. I don't know, you know, what the staff would have recommended if there had been a recommend.
It was,
What was
it
it?
was originally 127 for purchase of position, but
Yeah.
if the board is considering this, we would probably want to change it from a purchase position to a grant. But 127 was the amount.
Yeah, yeah, I have a concern about not providing them with any support whatsoever. And I think you know, we're trying to configure it so that we're supporting mental health treatment services, which would be the position that you know, that they requested we pay for. So my suggestion would be go with the staff's original recommendation.
They have the home then. I mean, it's the staffing.
Right. This is
I'm
to
trying to
support
go
the
back and
staff
read.
in the homes, and it would be a grant for 127,000. So that's what the board is being asked to consider.
Okay. Is everybody in favor of that? That's for staff in a behavioral health home? And it would be a grant? Yeah? Everybody okay? Okay. Sorry, I had to go back and look at what they recommended. Okay, 127 is what we're going to put down. Okay. As we move along,
And that probably is saving the Lawndale and Jackson homes.
Olive Rosecrans. Somebody said, pull Olive Rosecrans. Who was that? That was Ray?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Press your little thing so I can, no, people have to hear you. Press your. Okay. Okay, Mike.
What is the total?
The total for Rosecrans was $805,000. They asked for $988. We awarded $705.
And we can let you know the staff recommendations originally for each of those if you want. So for example, interpreting services, we recommended fee-for-service at 8,000, which is
7,000, it says.
in the fiscal year '25 original budget, we did recommend it for 8,000.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if you want to go
Can
through.
you walk me down through that, because I couldn't see it even if I was standing in front of it.
Here.
So it's currently at 7, which is fine. But
You want to look at this?
Yeah.
So that was interpreting services. Are you good? Is everyone good with that one?
They had 8,000 in the original. 7 with section of the bid flat.
Oh, do you want, thank you, Bridget. I just want to make a comment, because, oh goodness, I must be really loud in comparison to everybody else. But their utilization rate right now is at 71.5%, based on an $8,100 budget from last year. So they were, again, even though that might not have been what your recommendation was based, yeah, it does actually say in this one on historic utilization. So I'm actually fine with the 7,000 even on that, because that really is more in line with where their utilization is today. So unless, again, there's gonna be like a burst in their utilization in the next 2 months. And again, it's fee-for-service too. So just from my consistency standpoint, I would be fine with the 7,000.
700,000?
No, 7,000.
7,000,
Oh, okay.
just on that one program.
On the first program.
7,000. Is there any programs that you have issues with? Why don't you pull those out?
And then MAT, the Medical Assistant Program, that recommendation is at 100,000. The mental health fee for service, again, a program that can come back. The recommendation was funding at 15,000 based on utilization history. And the psychiatry program, it was only due to budget constraints only that we recommended the access grant of 300,000.
They're going to give us $300,000 worth of a psychiatrist? Is that what they're saying?
Access to psychiatry, yeah.
That's basically one psychiatrist. Probably 2/3 time.
Look what they asked for, though.
Yeah, I see it. I don't know. I just,
You just, what?
I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that.
Okay. I don't know, okay. So do you want to change any of this? It's 7,000. They were allocated 150. They get 100, 28, 15, 300, 300.
Yeah, it's pretty fair.
I'm just going over, did you have anything you wanted to change in any of that?
No.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything in Rosecrans? Otherwise, we'll leave it as is, 705,000. Okay. Then, we're going to the Warp Core. And,
Are you going in order?
yeah, and the Warp Core I had.
St. Mary's?
St. Mary's was passed,
Oh,
I thought.
no, St. Mary's was the new program that wasn't pulled. Okay, gotcha. Sorry about that.
It wasn't pulled at all. and it-
Okay. So it was Warp Core was next?
Warp Core.
Okay.
I pulled it, I think. Did you pull it too? Okay, Ray? I'm going to bring you,
Okay, for the youth prevention program, I'd like to do full funding. It's a unique program. For the street outreach, I'd like to reduce the 308,000 to the staff recommendation of 205,000. And that was because there was some double counting for the executive director's salary in both positions. You can't pay the person twice.
okay. And what did you want to do with youth prevention program? Is 124 or 306 okay?
No, I'd like to do full funding. The full request, 242.
243, 852. And the other one, the community recreation, you agreed at 0?
At this point,
Yeah. I agree with everything you're saying. Anyone else have any thoughts? I'm waiting for, oh, Leo, you have something to say?
I think Amy.
I think it's Amy.
I don't have Amy on here, but I'll do it. All right, there you go, Amy.
Yes. I'll keep it, I agree. That's all I'll say. I completely agree. Yes.
I agree too. Does anybody disagree with what we're offering Warp Core? Completely support it, okay. Then let's go down to Youth and Family Center of McHenry County. It was the Family Service Program. I don't know, someone pulled that. Did you pull it, Amy? Okay. Go ahead.
I would like to consider the full funding for this program of 160. I know we're giving them 115, but still 45,000. They are a small agency. I know that they make a tremendous difference in their community to many, many families. And I think we can come up with $45,000 to give them full funding for the family service program. So 160 is my recommendation.
I agree. Everybody else agree? Totally? Totally, okay. 160. So now I guess what I need somebody over there to do is add up what we've come up with.
There's the total amount is. So, yeah, the total amount is
Oh, I can't, thank you for saying that to me.
$10,032. I mean, 10,032,611.
Okay, it's doable. There's our budget, or our funding.
Yeah.
Yes?
I didn't pull Home of the Sparrow initially, because I was trying to remember what we funded them at in 2023. And I know we looked up that number and I should remember it, but there've been a lot of numbers.
What program are you?
Home of the Sparrow, we didn't pull it, but I question about it because I don't know if we funded them in this recommendation. I don't know if we're meeting the 2023 level. And we had a long email today discussing, their funding situation.
They just didn't get it in time last year, but.
Well, I
we
know,
have-
right, but I don't know, so we have this number in here, but I don't know where this number came
Okay,
from.
let me look. Take this glass off, look at the other. Where did you get the number?
From
It's-
23,
Again, it's a fee-for-service funding,
yeah.
so they can, we
Oh, yeah.
got them to the level where we thought that they would be at, so that they can come back and
Yeah.
ask for more if needed. So
Just to
that's
make
why
sure
the
not
recommend.
wildly disproportionate.
Yeah, that's
with
why
what
the
they had
recommendation was
before.
250, because it was a fee-for-service funding. The other one, they changed their application, the quality improvement, and so that was a little different of an application than it was before, so you can't really compare the two.
So we're looking at giving Home of the Sparrow 250,000 in this bottom line of, what, 10,000 something, or 10 million something?
Yeah, I think Carolyn's looking up a number. Oh, what is it? What was it? You could tell me and I'll speak it.
I have approximately, because I don't have the total end year, but it was about,
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that would be my preferred recommendation. I understand their fee for service and they come back, but that would be my suggestion. If people don't want to go it that way right now,
What
that's okay.
is your suggestion?
275.
275. For the wraparound case management, is that what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not for it, but
a better number, because I'm working off of a projection from like November of 2023, and the projection was 275, but I will say in 2022, that year end was 195. So, for whatever it's worth.
but we have a majority who is saying to go to
Yeah.
275.
And the staff, I think, have that number.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, if you have
because,
it.
again, because they did come back and ask for more funding.
Yeah, they were
throughout
originally
the
at
year.
200,000, and then they came
Right.
back, and it looks like they
Right.
ended the year around 275, but you may have a final number.
Does the staff have a final number?
All right, the end was, we have the year-to-date for the Home of the Sparrow. Is it one, are you talking about one project or both?
One.
Case management, that is 376,600. That was their year-to-date at the end of the year.
So 376. Again, it's a fee for service, so, yeah.
So
I
the
get it. And- but they
recommendation is
did-
275, and it seems like we have the majority to go for 275.
Yeah.
Okay, so say 275 now. Now give us a bottom line. Okay. Well, it's 10,814, is that it?
Yes,
70.
10,057,611.
Where do you see that? Oh, I see. Never mind. I'm copied down the number, okay.
I want to
Okay.
stop you from.
Okay, right.
I'd like to recommend 325 for Home of the Sparrow to match what we have for this year.
Okay.
So there's another recommendation to increase it further?
Yes.
Is
I
everybody
understand
good?
it's fee for service, but again, I think it shows the support that we have for the organization.
Okay, so now change it to 325.
Is that in alignment with the rest of the board?
Well, I think they are saying, yes, they want to increase it.
I'm supportive.
I don't mean to be always like the naysayer, but again, to be consistent, you know, they haven't been here for a year. Working off numbers that are, you know, 2 years old, and if we work off the numbers that are 3 years old, it's half of that even. So I just would rather, being fee-for-service, I'd kind of rather just keep it at that 275, and then they can come back based on, because their whole model has changed since they weren't here last year too, so we're really not even sure how all of that, I mean, obviously I'm extremely supportive, I just feel like this is one that it's sort of an unknown, just because it wasn't there last year. And we don't know how their funding has been over the last year, and maybe they've had to move things around. I just don't know. I think it's one that it's an opportunity for them to challenge and find other utilization, and maybe that's a good spot for them to be. I don't know,
So
but
you're, excuse me, you're for 275, you're for 300? 325?
He said 75.
Oh, 275 or 375? That's the two things that are on the table. You again? You know I'm joking, Lindsay.
I know
Go
you're
ahead.
joking. Two comments. I know last night I had that same question, and we got a very detailed, response, and I appreciated the response that and the time that Home of the Sparrow put into that. I want to go back to like some semblance of consistency. We just had this conversation with new NIRC about, 150 versus 200. And, I look at that, and with the fee-for-service, I want us to have some sort of concept of, hey, really need it if you're going to come back, because we might not have it, I mean, that's just the reality. Yes, we can always pull it from fund balance, we can do all these things, but I want us to have some consistency. If we're going to say, hey, fee-for-service at 75% of your ask, but then this agency fee-for-service at 100% of your previous, I don't know. And I know there's utilization, there's ask. Every program's different. I understand that NIRC might end up with a lot of catch-up in the end of the year because of the way their program works, and Home of the Sparrow might need to know, more of what they have for a year. It's such a tough decision, but I'm more in favor of Carolyn's number on this one for Home of the Sparrow.
275. I'm in favor of Carolyn's number. Ray has 375. Amy? Okay. Mike? 375. You're with Ray? 375. Greg? 275, 275, 275. 275 it is, at the majority. For now, they can come back.
So the total is the same?
Well, it should have gone up a bit. Because we went to
So the
275.
total is what we had before, $10,057,611. This was rough and tough
Yes, thank you,
and good,
everybody.
and we're almost there. I know, we're almost there,
Okay, we now have the opiate funds to look at.
yes.
This is done and won.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's, again, we'll use Bobby's 261 as, the letter that came in separate from these applications. So we'll handle that separate, but again, we believe it can be in the opioid. And thank you for the time and moving back. So what we have, went back to our records, and if you remember, the Janssen distribution, that was going to be the largest distribution that came up front, but that's going to stop. So we had $419,294.30 that was consistent, but that'll go until June of '26. After June of '26, that drops to $21,147 through June of '28, and then their payments stop. So their payments, the Janssen payments, were only the upfront payments. Then we had the other distributor payments. Those currently are at $154,362. And those go all the way through 2038. However, it's 176,000. It'll increase incrementally a little over time, and the most it'll be in 2038 is $176,599. So, again, to date, combining both of those will average about, $574 or $574,300 minimally up until June of '28, in which it will drop, but again, the other pharmacies that are coming in are going to be most likely making that average up. So that's where we came up with, this balance that we feel comfortable, and we feel, again, comfortable moving that capital request that had come into this pot. But there's not a lot of wiggle room because there's still some unknowns with this that we want to make sure that we're continuing to give those amounts through 2038. So, with that said, we had Mathers and Live for Lolly that we originally were staff recommendations, and that the board reviewed as well in the past month further. And again, Live for Lolly is at $498,900 in a grant, and that was their request in this opioid dollars. But if you can recall, too, their request in the regular funding was more. So there were some budget pieces that didn't get transferred into this pot. But, some of those things, again, they can come back to us as a board asking for dollars if needed in that opioid throughout the year. And I think.
What was the ask?
The ask was what we're giving them, the $498,973. So we're going to give them $498,900 just to make it easier for Melanie and our accounting team. But basically, we're giving them their request. So that's Live for Lolly. Any discussions with that staff recommendation? Or recommendation, I should say, in general. Because it's your recommendations as well.
I'm sorry, I actually don't have any questions about that. I have a process question about this. If a fee-for-service program that we awarded in the other award wanted to come back and ask for money, and we wanted to give it to them out of this bucket of money instead, are they allowed to do that, or do we have to fund them in this program some small amount of money in order for them to come back to ask for additional fee-for-service dollars? I'm not talking about Live for Lolly, I just have a
Right.
general question about OSF.
The contract would be specific for that funding. So yes, the answer would be yes. They,
can, but if you got it from opiate funds, you gotta come back to opiate.
Right, it's got to come out of the same bucket.
unless it's a new request
Okay.
that comes in,
I
but
have
we
comments
normally
about
don't, we
something else
normally
then,
don't
yeah.
entertain new requests in mid-year.
I thought we had consensus that we would exempt or change that policy when we talked last night. Maybe I wasn't clear. I
Right.
thought because of this,
That's why I said we normally.
we normally don't, but we're not normal anymore.
No, we're not normal.
This is, this is a new normal.
This is a new normal.
Well, let me clarify. I really want to clarify this. My question isn't whether it's fee-for-service
Right.
grant or anything. It's.
Mine was a contract.
Let me be more clear. I'm talking about NIRC here. You know, if there were dollars to use for their detox program, which we just talked about, funding 150 instead of 200, and if there were dollars that could be allocated out of this fund, and they could come back and ask for it, and we could fund it out of this fund, my question is, do they already have to be a funded provider right now in this round in order to be able to ask for money anytime in the fiscal year?
Yeah, and I answered the question.
Yeah, like, could I give $1 and then they can come back and ask it? So
Yeah.
that was I just want to make sure that that was really my clarification, was
And,
less
and
about
that's more
program.
regarding the contracts. So, the contracts are established with that. Like this is coming out of the opioid settlement fund, so the contract is with that fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I haven't made it clear already, I'd like to give some amount of dollars to that program so that that would be an option for us and for them, which has nothing to do with Live for Lolly or Mathers at this moment, but. Stop it.
Hmm?
Continue with the other request.
So we've got we agreed on Live for Lolly, the others is Mathers at this point, and then we'll go back to what Lindsay is stating. So Mathers, the OTP program is at 175, and I know I've heard some discussion about 175.
That's the methadone clinic?
Yeah, that's the, dispensing the methadone in McHenry County. Right now, the residents are going outside of McHenry County. So that would be transferring those, it's not really a clinic, but transferring those, not having the residents go outside of the county to get them, but getting the medications here and dispensing them here. That was the program that you guys heard of last week from Preeti.
Yeah, I wasn't here for that.
Oh, you weren't here.
I was not here, I was here in spirit. I can be on record. Okay, so, Mathers, they work in my world, in the private practice, so I have hands-on experience with them. Dr. Vermeer gave me my first shot as a baby therapist back in the day. And I appreciate it to this day. What I'm confused by is those clinics are usually incredibly profitable. I don't know why that clinic would need any money from us. I would really like that question answered, and until it got answered, I would just not be interested in funding it, because it is available. It may not be in our county, but look at all the kids we got going out of county for an inpatient treatment program. And with Rosecrans, where they take people. So I don't feel comfortable in funding that program at all.
I feel comfortable in funding that program.
Okay.
I'm exact opposite, because I've talked to many people that are going to Fox Lake to get there. So
Right, I'm aware.
they would like, I don't know about profit. I have no idea, methadone or anything else, but I just know that it would be very helpful for them to get there here instead of having to drive there and find somebody who will take them there, because you're talking about people that are addicted. You know that. So anyway, I'm for it.
I just feel like we're funding a private practice, honestly.
It could be.
And I could be completely wrong, but I'm not.
But you're not? Okay. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, you got to go through your list.
I'm
Oh,
looking.
Ray's next.
Oh,
Carolyn was next.
sorry, well, yeah, I'm happy to let somebody go first, but I just want to say thank you for your comments, Mike. I think between that and the comments that were made during public comment, and I did have some concerns from the standpoint of, I was kind of trying to wrap my head around, like how I think there were a lot of questions about how are they even gonna be successful in completing this, and I don't know that we had all those answers. So the program itself seems a little questionable to me, that it's actually gonna be able to utilize those dollars. And that, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought. And then, it's new funding. I mean, this is one that I know these aren't all, necessarily no new funding, but think about this is technically a new funding as well. And I think there's other ways we can be using these dollars that are one-time funding or direct impact and won't have such a questionable outcome.
Okay. It's Lindsay first. Go, I'll come back. Okay, next. It's Ray, next is you. Okay, you're on.
Okay.
Everybody's on.
Ladies first.
No, go Ray, I talked too much.
Okay, with regard to the staff recommendation, there was the special conditions, which was state approval documentation. I don't know if that's been discussed. I'm not sure what that refers to.
Yeah, they received that. We got an email from the state on that, that they could provide this program.
Right. Now it's Lindsay, then it's you. I'm just going by the way
Yeah,
it's.
thank you. I want to share my feelings on this, and I know I gave a little appetizer earlier. I think that a methadone clinic is very much in alignment with the spirit of the opioid settlement funds. I absolutely see why the staff recommended something like this. This is in fact a program that is in existence and can do this program, I have no doubt. So I see that. My concern is that we have people that work in that field sharing some concerns with us about the quality of the programs that come out of Mathers and the consistency of those. And I hear a little lack of faith that this could be everything we would want it to be from the people that are boots on the ground. And I think we have an obligation to listen to that and, take that into consideration. With that said, I also know that there's a new Dr. Vimuri in town, and that in that could lie an opportunity as well. So I have really mixed feelings about this. You would have gotten a yes if this would have been somebody else's name on it from me, to be honest. But my belief system is that I want to make sure these dollars are going to, serve people today. I echo some of Mike's concerns that I don't really understand why this opportunity can't exist if they wanted to bring it to this county anyways. It might have some year one profit margin loss, but it wouldn't the rest of the time, I don't believe. So it really makes me question this, but at the same time, I go back and forth. I vacillate because it's like, is this the entry we need into our community? But then she said, if this really gets up and running, maybe we would do more. And it would bring more of that very much needed service into the area. So for me, it was the thing that I would dip into and cut if we had to make tough choices. So that's where I'm at. Like I said earlier, I'm happy to cut a portion of this funding in favor for some of the other OSF providers on this list. And I don't know if maybe some partial funding would get us there for them to trial this, and then we could really see what their costs are, if there's a need and an expansion in the future. So I'd like to see if we could trial it, see if the reputations could change over time, and I don't think it's going to happen if they don't have an opportunity to do that. But I don't know that I love the idea of only picking two of these, people and places in this bucket. So I'd like to shorten the amount that they're granted in favor of more detox dollars in our county. More guaranteed instead of come back and ask fee-for-service dollars.
I agree with most of what you're saying. But here's another way to look at it. It's already going, and our people are putting the effort, and the people that need it are putting in the effort to go over and get it. And they really don't have a choice. They have to go because the other choice is unimaginable. So whether it's here or there, they're still getting, the program will still exist. I just don't want to be rewarding bad behavior, and all of my concerns are based on the things that you listed. We're not going to lose the program. I'm just questioning whether we want to reward somewhat questionable behavior or not, and how we could build in maybe some guardrails. But our staff does a great job of doing that already. I don't know what more we could do than what the staff is already doing.
I have talked to two people that go to Lake County, and it would be very helpful for them to come here, because many times they can't get rides there. You're talking about addiction. I don't know about billing, I don't know about what Lindsay's saying, but I think that we need to offer something there, because we need something in this county. I mean, look at all the people that need their methadone and stuff. I mean, a lot of them are going without it because they can't get there.
Well, if they're not getting it, it's not that they're going without it, they will relapse.
Well, right, and they do relapse. And so I'm saying, I agree with Lindsay to give something to start the program, to get it going a little bit. You've got a doctor which is Pretty Vimuri, not Vimuri's daughter, and you've got him and them wanting to start something. I'm for funding it somewhat. I'm not saying you have to fund it 175, but I do know people that are addiction that really need it.
And again, it's a moneymaker,
Well, it might be, but
a serious moneymaker.
then we're gonna do it at your house? I'm joking.
I've got 5 acres.
I know. So how does everybody else think about this? Because this is the opiate funding. Fund it a little bit. The staff recommendation was 175. What did they ask for? I don't have it in front of me.
Do we have any competitive bids on this?
No, nobody wants to do it. Thank you. Amy?
I really appreciate the comments, both from members and then from the board. This isn't an area that I know much about, but given the severity of the concerns that have been expressed, and not just by one party, I do not feel comfortable with the full funding. To throw a number out that folks can react to, I'll say 50, and we can go from there. But I absolutely do not feel comfortable with 175, given everything we've heard. I also agree it's a need, and I want to meet that need, but this does not sound like the ideal solution with a full funding at this point in time, given what's been expressed. So I'm throwing out 50. Folks can react to that.
Ray?
I would recommend zero funding from previous experience.
Okay, we have on the table some, 50, none. Board, what do you think? Sorry.
Staff had, if somewhere in the comments, recommended maybe in the other bucket, like 129.6 or some very unique number. To balance the budget. All right, favorite thing. I see this number in their budget, you know. This is such a hard decision for me personally because, you know, I'd love to know what the answer is. I'd love to see if they could come back to us mid-year, even with their grant type of funding with this. You know, her presentation really did support the idea that they're already serving McHenry County residents. There's already people in need. And to your point, you know, they're gonna continue to get those services if they find their way to those services where they exist today. But it's more resources in our county, so, you know, what, 50,000, you know, okay. If that starts something, I do believe she said they needed a nurse, if I'm recalling correctly.
Right.
There were some dollars, I believe, for a CADC level person. Those are not big dollars to work on those roles, so it's a little confusing to me sort of where the actual line in the sand where they could maybe roll this out smaller, trial it, we could see. That's an invisible number to me, and I don't know what it is, and that's my recommendation. And without knowing something like that, I'm a little concerned that $50,000 would be a no-go. And if that's where everybody's comfortable, then we make that offer, and it's their responsibility to come back to us and say, we can't even make that work in the work plan, you know?
Can I ask, I'm going to throw a question out there. If we gave 50,000 and the recommendation was 175, what are you doing with the other 125? I'm just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
sure. I mean, I'm giving 50,000 to New Directions in their detox program so they can count on it because, and I know that they offer a matching to that, and, you know, I sometimes wonder if that contract could be different than our normal arrangement. And Leo looks like she wants to say something, so I'll let her.
Okay.
But I wonder if it's
I
like,
just
can we
threw
do
that out
more
there.
with that money to especially serve people who come in with an opiate detox need in this county? If we were able to give more of those dollars to NIRC and maybe not even require their match, to really serve that specific need, which is what those dollars are supposed to do.
Well, I'm not opposed to giving
And then we
them
could leave
something.
the other ones floating around for other needs, as far as I'm concerned.
Right,
Because that
Okay.
pool of money,
right.
we could
right.
make those decisions.
Yeah, I think that giving them something, saying, can you do something with it? If you can't, you can't. Yes, Mike? There you go, Mike.
Thank you. The sad thing is, the clinician in me comes back to the primary patient and our residents, and they suffer because perhaps someone who is not doing it as well as they could or hasn't done it as well as they could has made us more cautious. And, you know, there's a little thing on my shoulder that's telling me you've always got to err on the side of the patient because addiction is an evil disease. And getting there wherever there is, and I know this sounds like a complete flip, and I'm schizophrenic here, but it, you know, at the end of the day, it's the community that we serve, not Mathers. So for what it's worth, that's the ambivalence in the decision. If one more person stayed sober and stayed on their program because we bring it into McHenry County, it's totally worth it.
Okay, so what we have in front of us,
I shifted on you.
well, no, you know, I think we need to call. You want to repeat the question? Pardon? Oh. I wanted to say something though, okay.
You go ahead.
I was going to say what's out there is no funding, some funding, $50,000 worth of funding. I mean, this is what I'm hearing out there, okay? I'm just repeating it back. Now, Chris.
I just wanted to say, it seems like a lot of and there's a strong undercurrent of ambivalence. And I think it has to do with the uncertainty about future performance based on past performance. So if that's our concern, maybe what we want is special conditions where we ask them for surveys about consumer service and from clients, and they give us that information, you know, at the quarter level, and we, you know, can cancel funding arrangements. Maybe we shift it to a fee for service so it's more seamless for them to come back if we give them less money up front, so that they can get continuation funding if needed, if the quality of the services is where we want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, we can put conditions on anything, that's for sure. Anyone else's thoughts? Amy?
Thank you. I'm only giving numbers because I don't want to vote on some number that is not 175, so I'm trying to put stakes in the sand. I realize 50 is quite low, so I'm going to amend that. How about we do 100? That then allows 50 easily to go to something like New Directions, because we'll have an extra $75,000 floating out there. And then we put the special conditions on. So just to have a plan for us to react to, 100, that frees up 75 to go elsewhere. New Directions has been suggested, and then the special conditions, I think, is great. What's it?
And I know that it's needed.
Oh, sorry, sorry. You know what I meant, I apologize. And I are, sorry, not New Directions.
Okay. All right, so we have a proposal on the table of 100 with special conditions. You know, they may come back and say they can't do it for that too. I mean, that's their choice. Oh, you're right, but I mean, that's what we can offer. Is everybody okay with that except Ray says 0? So I'm just saying, we have to have a consensus so that we can move on.
Well, I'm sorry, and it was totally arbitrary, I think, either number. And I don't know, I guess I heard Chris maybe a little bit differently, that those, maybe they could come back if they met those, I guess was what I was looking at, maybe give them a upfront investment. I got the impression this was kind of gonna take them a little bit of time to maybe implement it as well. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do it like in month
They
one.
have to hire somebody, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I guess I was kind of leaning more towards the 50 and give them the opportunity to be up and running, but yet, but, I mean, I'm fine. I think there's a need and some level of support for them, but I think at the same time, they need to invest in the community as well. It's to their benefit and to our benefit. It's mutual. So I don't know, I was a little more comfortable with 50 and with the option of coming back, but if they met those parameters, I don't know if that's an option or not, but.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I will call point of order pretty soon, okay. The horse isn't dead, okay.
parameters or special conditions feels really vague for me, so I think that's part of where I'm hesitating. I think they did a decent presentation on exactly what their program would look like, and I do agree with you. I don't think it's going to be a month-by-month, quarter-by-quarter thing that they can do. So to me, I mean, my philosophy is, let's pick a number that we're comfortable with. If we are okay with being creative this year and inviting people to come back, then, you know, this is why we have Karen and her team doing really good, you know, audits and coming in, especially with new programs. It's early on. So I think we would then just shift into trusting our staff to report anything of significant concern versus special. I just don't know what the special parameters are, so that's why I'm a little cautious about agreeing to that. I'm okay with 50. And if they can come back, because they have to come back, then I hope they come and talk to us. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hearing, so I think that's what it is, because I'm hearing yes, 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 yes. So 50 with special conditions. That's what you put down. Do we have to make a decision on the other money tonight? On opiates?
If you want a contract for fiscal year 25.
Okay, so go ahead, make a recommendation. No, you had it. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we will need, you know, any other kind of recommendation if you want it in this pool, but also remember that we've moved the capital requests that came in separate into this pool. So we're fine if you want to leave everything as is and not split up the accounting monthly data.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
I still want to make the recommendation that we would grant $50,000 to Northern Illinois Recovery's SUD detox and treatment services for the underserved program.
I agree with that. Okay, so we have 50 going to Mathers, 50 going to Northern Illinois Recovery for detox. Is everybody in agreement? Okay. So I think we've got a funding plan here. What I do need from,
Somebody in the queue?
somebody's in the queue, okay.
It's so quick, I promise.
Oh,
Just
please.
No, it is, I swear, and it's Chris's idea. I thought it was such a good one. I know special conditions is vague, so if we wanted to write down, I think it was me, it was Chris or Greg, someone.
Yeah, we heard the special
But no,
conditions.
but customer satisfaction.
Right.
Surveys.
Yeah, we heard
So I
that.
don't- Okay. Just wanted to make sure that customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
The patient satisfaction survey, yeah. Chris sits on the, yeah, on the Ethics and Compliance Committee.
Okay. So what I need now is I need a motion to accept the funding agreement that we took a couple hours coming together with. Okay. Pardon me? First time, you know, you're going to put me to bed here. Go ahead.
I've lost track. Where did the 261 or 361, the capital, end up? I thought we were,
That's is the opiate money.
this is the opiate money.
Yeah.
Is it in
Yeah,
there?
yeah, we just said, well, it's not part of, remember, there wasn't an official application in the opioid, only because.
So it's not in the spreadsheet, but we're.
It's not on the
okay.
spreadsheet, but we're just going to use the opioid dollars. Because originally it was in the spreadsheet, it was in the application of the annual funding because we weren't allowing capital to be in opioids before. But since we've gotten the legal opinion, we can have it be in the opioid dollars. So, yeah.
Okay, so now I need a motion to approve the FY25 funding plan.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Greg.
Wait, can I ask, are we doing them separate or together?
We're doing
Can we
them
do them
together.
two separate?
Together. Do you want them
Want them separate?
separate?
Yeah, can we do them separate, please?
Okay. A motion to approve our funding plan, not the opiate yet. Mike said, Greg seconded it, so now we need to vote. And it's on your screen, so. Okay, that passed. Now I need a motion to approve the opiate plan. Lindsay made the motion, second by Carolyn. We need to vote. Can I make it your screen? They'll make it your screen. Eric will. Okay, that passed.
Wait,
What do you mean, wait?
okay, did we get everybody? Okay.
Mine said everybody. Okay. So, moving right along. New business for discussion. I don't think we have any new business. Member comment? You have a member comment? Go ahead, Mike.
You guys noticed, I don't know when else I would be able to say this to you, so I'm going to say it now. I'm in need of a kidney transplant, and I've been going through kidney transplant protocol, and it's aggressive, to say the least. There's lots of surgeries involved and stuff, and usually you expect Einstein from me, I know that, but it's dumbing me down a little bit, and I probably will be missing some meetings moving forward, and when I'm no longer an asset and it becomes a hindrance rather than a help, I will see that before you guys will, and then I will remove myself so you can get somebody who's healthy.
Well, you're going to be healthy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be all right so far. So good. But that's what's going on. Like when we opened up, my train of thought to say cut everybody 10% was an attempt to save everybody from losing anybody, and we went in an entirely different direction, and it looked like I was being hard on our agencies. That's not me.
Yeah, we know that.
And it can't happen, can't keep happening. So that's what's going on.
Okay, well, thank you, Mike, for sharing that.
And if anybody's got an extra kidney.
Okay, I need to have a motion to go into executive
Wait, there's
session.
other member comments.
Oh, you have another member? I'm sorry, Carolyn.
And I was going to hold it off, but I'll say, since it kind of ties into what Mike was saying, as far as, so with that, while I appreciate the attendance record being, public, if we could maybe not put it in color like that. I mean, I am one that I didn't like when a teacher red marked my paper. I just don't think we need to put those red, you're absent, because there sometimes are circumstances, like,
Of
Mike
course.
has, that it's okay that there's a higher absence. And so I just don't want anyone, I mean, there's certain triggers I maybe have, and maybe red is one of them. So, and I didn't even have that many, I think I had one absence maybe, but maybe in the future, if we could just,
Okay.
put
Yes,
A or
it was
whatever.
just-
It's
it
great
was-
to have it there, but just, we don't need to
Okay,
have red.
no more reds.
Thank you.
Anything else, other member comment? Then I need a motion to go into executive session and say goodbye to people. Motion to go into, Amy, second? I need a second? Oh, you seconded? Mike seconded. All those in favor? Aye. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're coming into executive session. And plan on bringing your beds here.
Good job. Good job, board. So the camera's off?
Say?
Give her a minute.
Oh. Okay, I thought, I don't know. And I have new hearing aids in, guys, I want you all to know. In case you didn't think, oh my God, she's hearing good today. I went and picked them up today, so. Yes. Now I need a motion to come back into regular session, right? Don't I? Second? All those in favor? Make a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. See you next month. What hits the press?
By the way,